Hi there, welcome back to the Finley Formation. This is Brandon.
This Gage.
And this is Jared.
Okay, well, our last episode we finished up on our team history and off season, so now we're going to be doing a little bit of a, I guess what, kind of a Q and A where one of us is going to queue up a question and we'll just talk about it, maybe just bring up a subject. And we kind of hoping, as Gage mentioned last episode, that you guys get involved with this. This would be cool. We could make this a thing, at least
Mhm.
a part of our segment or a part of our episodes. Just ask us some questions and we'll discuss it. I mean, you can even give your answer in your question, what you think, and then we'll maybe even mention that too. So
Yeah.
be cool to get everybody involved in that. Be pretty fun. All right, so to start this off, I'm gonna cue this up. I got this off of ESPN. I can't claim that I was super brilliant on making this up or anything, but I like the question where they ask which NFL teams that have never won a Super Bowl do you feel have the best chance to win one this season? So I'll go through and I'll mention the teams for people who don't know the teams that have never won a Super Bowl. There are 12 of those. And they got them in order too. So you got the Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, and the Texans, and the Jaguars. Sorry, the four teams that have never been to a Super Bowl. The Cardinals and the Chargers have both Cardinals, Chargers, and Tennessee Titans. Sorry, got a little tongue tied. Have all been to one Super Bowl. The Falcons, the Panthers, they've been to two Super Bowls without winning them. And the Bengals have been to three, and then you got the ultimate losers, the Bills and the Vikings have both been to four Super Bowls and lost all four.
The least the Vikings didn't lose four straight.
Four in a row, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. But they're still losers too because they haven't won one
Yeah.
yet. And not to mention when they won, I think the first one they went to, they were like the huge favorites to win that one. I think they lost to the was it the Chiefs that beat them out in that one,
Who'd they have,
or was
man?
it the Jets?
Who took them to Super Bowl?
Yeah, do we know a
They-
year?
Yeah.
When the during that year it was like 1973
Oh.
or something like that.
So Fran or
Yeah, I think it was Tarkenton.
yeah, I think it was Fran Tarkenton.
And I just remember, like, every time you hear history on it, they were the huge favorites, and
Oh,
they got
okay.
upset because it was the first time the AFC won a Super
Yeah,
Bowl. So yeah,
that's right.
thanks Vikings.
The first time the AFC won one.
Yeah,
It is funny how much he used to be destroyed by the NFC,
I
man.
know.
Just dominated.
Yep,
hmm
And now it's kind of flipped.
it has.
Talk about any top quarterback, they're pretty much all in the AFC except for
Yep.
Brock.
Yep.
is
All
true.
right. So you got the teams laid it out. I'll go a little quicker. Browns, Lions, Texans, Jaguars, Cardinals, Chargers, Titans, Falcons, Panthers, Bengals, Bills, and Vikings. None of them have won a Super Bowl. So, in your guys' opinion, who has the best chance?
So you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about doing this episode, and I said there's two obvious teams. And I think now that I'm thinking about it, the two teams I like are not the two obvious teams.
Okay. So,
I take,
so
I,
the two obvious you're thinking is the Bills and the Lions.
yeah,
Okay.
and I think I
Just
take
yeah.
the Bills and the Vikings. I think the
Okay.
Bills overall have the best chance, but I do like the Vikings.
Vikings better than the Lions.
Yep.
Okay.
I just think that they have. I mean, I know the Lions are winning a lot now, but they just have more of a winning culture around their team still. The Lions are still new to being a winning team. The Vikings have been a playoff team as far back as I can think right now. So,
Yeah, they've been. Yeah.
so I think if they could finally break through and have JJ work pan out, I think they always managed to have a okay run game, and then they got insane wide receivers, and they got a great defensive coordinator. So I think they, I mean, I almost like them over the Bills too,
Oh, really?
because the
Okay.
Bills don't have anybody to throw to still really.
So if it's you think a Vikings Bills Super Bowl would be basically right up your alley. You think that? Not saying that they're both, but that would be. What do
Yeah,
you think of
Mhm.
that? That could
yeah,
happen.
yeah. I think that's a very high possibility.
I looked at so the way I kind of broke it down, just looking at it because I didn't know the question beforehand. I guess you kind of mentioned, but I didn't even think about it. So I just taken one team from the AFC and one team from the NFC, but I'm gonna have a little bit of a maybe a hot take. I don't know, but Cincinnati Bengals are the only team to recently beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs and make the Super Bowl from the AFC. So I'm gonna lean towards them a little bit. I know their defense is a little shaky, but
A little shaky.
I think they have the
A
best.
little.
They have the best offense.
Yeah, I think so too.
They have the weapons
Offense
to.
don't matter when you can't stop another
That's
offense.
true, but they have the best weapons, I think, to get in the shootout with any team in the playoffs.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
It does.
I mean,
that was kind of where I was going to think
Mhm.
too. I don't know if they're going to be my favorites, but I definitely think that a lot of people are sleeping on this team this year.
I see what you're saying, but I also think the Buffalo Bills could run for 200 yards on this defense, just handing it off to whoever the hell they want to, and they could slow the game down so much
Yeah.
that Joe Burrow holds the ball for 6 minutes the whole game, and you can't do that much with 6 minutes of possession time.
Yeah, that's asking a lot. But
Yeah. I mean, I like the Bills. I think the Bills are just kind of fallen on hard luck the last 3 times that they've played the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's been a toss-up every time they played them. Shoot, they had a game one in 13 seconds and ended up losing it
Mhm.
to the Chiefs. So,
Yep.
and then the last 2 years they missed a field goal. It was a perfect scenario. They got home field, and not necessarily home field advantage, but they got the Kansas City Chiefs to come up to Raymond James Stadium and play up there at their home field in the playoffs. And Stephon Diggs misses a freaking bomb from Josh Allen, just
Mhm.
drops it right out of his hands, and then their kicker misses a game tying field goal
I think so.
with like
Yeah,
less than a
Tyler
minute to
Bass,
go. Yeah, I
Shane
missed
Clark.
that. And then last year, they competed again. It was a 3-point game,
Mhm.
something like a 1-score game that they ended up losing. So
Yeah.
they're right on the cusp. The only reason I said that is just because Cincinnati has proven that they can do it, and they have done it, and they've done it at Arrowhead Stadium, or they've gone to Kansas City and done it. Their defense is just a little too shaky for me. So 1A and 1B would be Cincinnati and Buffalo.
I just think the Broncos are going to end up playing the Chiefs as like the 6th seed to the 2nd seed or something, and the Broncos
Okay.
are going to kick the dick out of the Chiefs, and the
Uh-huh.
Bills are going to beat the Broncos, and then Super Bowl champs.
So 1A and 1B was what? Sorry.
Well, just in AFC, so
Okay.
Cincinnati and Buffalo. I mean,
Okay.
it's a toss up between those two. Obviously, Texans. I don't know. The Texans are still. I thought they played the Chiefs pretty well last year in that divisional round, so I think they're right on the cusp. I think they just don't have the offensive line to kind of compete. I think if you have a dominant defensive line like the Kansas City Chiefs do, as far as like having the best defensive player, probably a defensive lineman in the AFC on your team, and Chris Jones, I think he's probably going to take over a game if you have a weakness.
Right.
Yeah, their offensive line is like some fiberglass insulation,
Yeah.
block the wind, and that's about it.
That's true. Yeah. NFC, I like Gage's take. Just the unknown is JJ McCarthy. If JJ McCarthy can give them like just average quarterback play, I really like them. I like their defense better than Detroit's. I like their weapons better than Detroit. Gage and I both had Justin Jefferson as our number one wide receiver. I remember him and you kind of getting into it between Chase, but he's the best probably offensive weapon, non-quarterback weapon, I think, in the league. Detroit just has too many unknowns with losing both of their coordinators, I think, for me.
I don't know if I'd say best non-quarterback though. I think that's. I still think I'd rather have Derrick Henry or Saquon than Jay Jettis.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So best wide receiver, I don't think best non-quarterback
yeah.
weapon.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah, Detroit they're just the two unknowns. Was Ben Johnson really the the engine behind that offense, and you lose that kind of mind. And I know you still have the same pieces, but you lose somebody that's been doing it for the last 2.5 years to leave, and then have somebody else kind of take over, especially on defense too. I really like Aaron Glenn as a defensive coordinator. He just got kind of dealt a shitty hand last year with how many injuries he had on defense, which was their downfall in the playoffs. So you lose those two really good defense and offensive minds to guys I don't think have ever called offense or defense before. I think the offensive coordinator maybe did like 4 or 5 years ago, but hasn't since. So that just gives me a little bit too much pause. I remember after the Lions lost to the 49ers in that NFC Championship game, that Dan Campbell famous quote was like, "You never know when you're going to get back to this situation." Right. And they had the best or the number one seed last year and couldn't make it out of the divisional round.
Right.
So.
They still just couldn't pull it off.
So I like the Vikings, and I'm gonna say Cincinnati and the Vikings. Those are my takes.
Okay, I don't hate them.
Cincinnati and the Vikings.
Yeah. So one from the AFC and one from the.
Okay.
Yeah, I just stuck with where I did Vikings.
You're gonna.
Bills.
No, that's cool. So. But I thought his 1A was gonna be Buffalo.
Well,
that's cool.
One only is Buffalo for me.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. I think a team that if we're, you pretty much hit on what I was going to say with Cincinnati, and I like that you picked them. I do think that they're going to be a lot scarier. But another team that is not going to be my number one pick out of the AFC that I think a lot of people should watch out for. They did make the playoffs. They got a coach who's proven that he can get to the Super Bowl. He can win national championships. Is the Chargers, and if they can put it together, I think they can make a long playoff run.
But they
And
can't put it together. We haven't seen Justin
and
Herbert put anything together since his
yeah,
second year in the league.
yeah, they got beat up on by the Texans. That was surprising
Yeah.
in the playoffs. But I do think that it's just I don't know what it is about Harbaugh, but he can just pull together some gritty ass wins when he needs to. And we've seen it with the Niners. I mean, they had some ugly wins that they didn't have any offense going for them at all, and still was able to pull it out. And I think you're going to see the same thing with the Chargers. But they're not my number one. But I do think it's the Bills all day there, and I do think the Bills are probably the closest, like we've talked about, to at least making the Super Bowl. Now, I mean, winning it's totally different, and it's the Bills. I do think Josh Allen. I think that he's been to these moments enough now that I don't think a Super Bowl would be too big for him, though. But yeah, so I'm going to go Bills in the AFC, even though I think that a lot of people, you shouldn't sleep on the Bengals. And I do think the Chargers are going to be good. I know you might not like Herbert, but he's not the only one there. And I think Harbaugh had him playing good football his first season there. So in the NFC, I know I want to go Vikings. I like what they did. I'm still going with Detroit because I do like what they've proven to be able to do more. And if JJ McCarthy even had a little bit of time to where we could see what he was doing, I'd probably go there with the Vikings as well. Because as much as I hate it, I think you never want to pick the Vikings to win the Super Bowl because they're just never going to do it.
Yeah.
But if they did have a proven quarterback right now, I would take them. They really rebuilt that roster good, but
I just think you've seen it all last year. You don't need a proven quarterback for the Vikings to have a really good year. So
yeah, and I think Darnold had a better year than what you give him credit for too. I think he played.
no, I think he had a real good year. I just think it's part of being part of that system and having the best wide receiver
Okay.
in the league.
I hear what you're saying there.
The
I hear
best
what
wide
you're
receiver
saying.
two in the league, or second best wide receiver. I'll give it to T. Higgins, but second best wide receiver two in the league.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
And then
there.
backed by the best defense in the league. Yeah, he just
yeah,
with
they
that type
found
of
ways to win,
supporting
and I
cast,
think that
yeah.
what they do 15-2 last season.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
So I mean, yeah, they had a hell of a season. Now to put it all back together, I just I kept waiting for the house to fall, and it did right at the beginning of the playoffs. But and so they built a nice house and it went down. I don't see them doing it again. I see the Detroit Lions winning that division, and I do see them being the number one overall seed again. And probably this year they are probably my favorite to come out of the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl. So
Ooh, I don't know if
that's
I could
who I'm
put,
going with.
I don't know if I could put the Vikings or the Lions as my favorite to win the NFC.
Really.
I mean, as much as I hate Hurts and I hate the Eagles, as long as they have Saquon
That's true.
and Hurts, even the amount of hate I give him, he manages a game to make it to where they win.
Yeah, I agree.
don't think
I
he's a
would
great
have to
quarterback,
really
but he makes them
analyze, I
win.
guess, that game in the NFC
So yeah,
Championship.
I do think I would probably take the
Yeah.
Eagles to win the NFC.
They're stacked too.
So I don't think we're getting a new Super Bowl winner this year.
But I honestly like we had that take when I asked that question on Facebook too about who could break into the top 10 scoring, over average points per game. The Bengals are right there, so I picked, and then I think we had a listener come in and say he thought the Lions could do it, and they were only like what 0.3 or 0.4 off of
were they?
Yeah.
it, making the top 10
Yeah,
for
they were like
scoring.
11
so
12.
So I mean, I really think that the Lions can. If you said it, like with Ben Johnson being gone, I mean, but maybe that it has a huge effect. But if it doesn't, and they're able to go, I think that they could they could break that, and they could get into that. So I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I think they're going to get healthy on defense, and probably I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to come back and terrorize the NFC North. So
I think one thing that kind of gives me pause, and I just remember this, and I don't know why, but they lost Frank Ragnow. So Frank Ragnow, I don't know if you know much about him, but he was probably a top 2, top 3 center in the league. He just announced his retirement, about a month ago?
Yeah.
They lost him. They lost Kevin Zeitler. So I still feel like the pieces that they have on their offensive line, but losing one of the top centers in the league, and I don't know what their plan is behind them because he always knew with Philadelphia with Jason Kelsey, because the last like probably 3 years that he played, they always kind of had like, he always came back on like 1 year deals. But so they had like the succession plan with it was Cam Jurgens that took over at center.
Yeah.
He started at guard, and it was
Mhm.
just pretty much like a waiting game until
Right.
he retired. So I don't know if Detroit has the same thing. I don't know if that was quite a like a, hey, this is he kind of sprung this on us. We didn't have no idea, but
Mhm.
I don't know that when you lose a center,
Yeah, that is kind of rough.
That's a big deal.
So I guess
I don't
it's
know.
kind of a wild card just because I really like their other pieces.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at Amon Ra. I mean, their receiving core is
Mhm.
probably. I mean, if you look at it from depth, top to bottom, is probably one of the better in the NFL. And they got great running backs.
Yeah,
So
I
I
like-
mean, their
yeah.
skill positions are stacked.
Do they have the best running back tandem in the league? You think?
I would say.
With Montgomery and Gibbs.
Yeah, probably.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I mean, it's hard to get a 1-2 punch that
Right.
good.
Yeah.
So, and I mean,
I
you
like
seen
the
Gibbs
Bucks.
when Gibbs took over when Montgomery went down for what 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. They didn't miss a beat.
No, they probably
I
got
might-
better.
Able to,
I might
Yeah.
take the Bucks.
Bucks with
Bucky Irving and Tank Bixby.
Yeah,
I might take
too.
that over Sonic and
Yeah.
Knuckles are over there. Now that you don't have such a great line in front of them with
Yeah.
I mean, you still have Panay well, but yeah, you did lose Frank Ragnow and Kevin
Mhm.
Seidler. I think losing those two pieces, they're going to slump, and I think Bucky and Tank will end up being better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Tank Bigsby there, is it?
No, that's the guy for the Jags, huh? Who was
yeah.
their other guy?
I know who you're talking. It's White, isn't it?
Bucky Irving.
Bucky
Irving, and they have a second
uh,
guy was kicking ass over there.
That's true. I can't remember.
I
his
thought it
name.
was something White,
Yeah,
but I might be wrong.
I can't remember now, but yeah, I know they
Yeah.
have a pretty good
I don't know.
tandem.
Crazy. Yeah, but that was really good too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think skill positions. And I mean, I guess if they did NFC Championship, like I said, come down to the Eagles and the Lions, that would be a tough one to pick against the Eagles. But if the team's going to be able to break that defense, it probably would be a team like the Lions or something
Yeah.
that has all those skill positions. So I know. So I guess kind of moving on, we kind of set our piece on that one. I think Jared has a question too, though.
Yeah, this came up as kind of same lines with you. It wasn't from ESPN. I think it was from like a FS1, one of their talk shows. Like I don't even know what their talk shows are, like Speak Now or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was, I want to say it was like around March, but the discussion with, I think Brock Purdy came up and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and somebody brought up the question like, hey, would you trade JJ Watt or TJ Watt for Brock Purdy? And somebody on there, and I guess I never even thought about this, but and I don't know who it was, so I can't give them any credit, but they brought up the point was like, well, even like your middle to average quarterback, say like your 15th best quarterback in the league, whoever you think that is, like fall in the line with, I don't know, Jordan Love, or I don't know who you think, like Baker Mayfield or somebody that's like middle to back.
Yeah, Baker.
They're more valuable to your team and your team's success than a top 5 defensive player. And I never thought about that. And I was like, hey, actually, because on paper, somebody's like, hey, we'll trade you TJ Watt for Brock Purdy straight across. And it was like, oh, the TJ Watt and Nick Bosa combination would be pretty deadly. Then it's just like, well, then who do you have playing quarterback? So in my mind, it kind of goes back to like Myles Garrett. And the Cleveland Browns made a decision to pay the best defensive end in the league, top 2. Let's say he's top 2 defensive end in the league, probably top 3 defensive player in the league, rather than find a quarterback.
Right.
And that kind of shows on their team success. So is like an average to below average quarterback, in your guys' opinion, more valuable than having a top defensive player on your team?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm a big proponent in trying to move bring the quarterback position importance of it down a little bit. But still, you can only bring it down so far.
Right.
And that guy touches the ball every snap on offense. You can work an offense to play to the strengths of your quarterback. You work your offense to get your quarterback, to make plays and to get him in position to make plays, to get this, in offense, you work to get a guy the ball. You work to the strengths, where in defense, I mean, everybody, you can go against a guy. You have to plan for guys. Yes. I mean, that's good because other guys can get open, but I think, if you figure out a way to stop a defensive end for a whole 3 quarters,
right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, he might get a sack or two, in the game, but still, you got all those other snaps. So yeah, I think so. And I've even, like I said, I just think the quarterback position is the most important. Yeah, I think other positions need to be highlighted more than what they are, but yeah, I totally think so. I think the quarterback position, yeah, if you even have a guy that can come out and do a Sam Darnold and just
Mm-hmm.
do good with the team that he has, or like we talked about, even like a Herbert or these guys who they do okay. You might not like them a lot, but they're doing okay. They're better than having a TJ
Right.
Watt, I think. So
Okay. Well, I look at it I look at it different. Um, I think looking at that exact same trade proposal of TJ Watt for Brock Purdy straight across,
Mm-hmm.
if TJ Watt was also just coming off of his rookie deal, I accept the deal. I think, even though I love Brock, and I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I've seen what we've done with, Jimmy Garoppolo and guys who aren't as good as Brock. And you look at it, and even if you give me Brandon Allen on the Niners, but if the whole team stays healthy and Kyle Shanahan's system, you don't need a quarterback to be able to throw 25 passes a game. We want to play a game with Jimmy throwing 8. So I think if you could pair TJ Watt and Nick Bosa together with Fred Warner behind him and Malik Mustafa back there, and I wish we had our secondary we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think looking at what we have on defense already, and then adding TJ Watt into it, I think I think we'd have the best defense in the league, if not, top 5 defense in the league.
Yeah.
And then I think we could have a really strong run game still. And even with a guy like Brandon Allen, he can complete checkdowns. He can complete, just passes that you need if it hits the 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7. I think he could get it done. So I do think if there wasn't an age gap there, I would accept that trade.
Yeah.
So I do the best defensive player in the league. I mean, I guess it's situational with me.
right,
I don't think there's say, I'm trying to think of a really bad defense like the Bengals with
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow. Of course, Joe Burrow's too good.
Right.
But I mean, if you're looking at a fringe top 10 guy or below, I think I'd probably make that trade.
Yeah, it just made me wonder because I'd never really thought about that before. Because it's
Mhm.
always like you're playing in fantasy land, like, oh yeah, TJ Watt would look great on the 49ers, but you're also giving up Brock Purdy, so it's like a give
right,
and take. And then with the Browns situation, they kind of convert. We talked about when we did the Browns episode is, they probably could have got at least 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett if they wanted to trade him, but they decided to pay him
Mhm.
$40 million, then stack up their draft picks and potentially move up and get Cam Ward.
So I
So
guess
So would you rather have?
talking on that situation,
yeah, which is kind of that's where I was going to go. Where what he's saying too. So you made it situational with just the Niners, but if you're looking at teams all in general,
Mhm.
if if you're looking at teams in general, I mean, yeah, if we want to go Browns, I don't know. It's hard to say in general what I would do. I do think having the best defensive player in the league is better than an average quarterback.
Do you think it's
Now,
so like?
if you look at guys like the
Mhm.
Browns, I like what they did. I think they could have used one of their draft picks. I mean, they had a chance probably to get Dart, or they could have made a trade to get Dart. They had chances to get better quarterbacks, but even with just getting Dylan Gabriel, if he comes in and he's able to manage this offense,
Mhm.
that defense will be locked down enough that they only need to go out and score 19 and a half points a game, and they could be a 10-win team.
Yeah.
So I do think they made the right decision too.
Trying to think of who's the quarterbacks probably next in line to get paid. Like who's still on their like rookie deals.
I mean, CJ Stroud coming up. What is he going into his 3rd year? So he
Yeah.
has next year and then maybe one more year. Uh, who else? I mean, I think Anthony Richardson come out of that class.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. I like CJ Stroud, but like if CJ Stroud was like a year later and the Browns were like in the same situation they are this year, where or like even I guess Pittsburgh Steelers, where TJ Watt's holding out for a new contract. He's probably wanting to get probably seen Miles Garrett's contract. It's
that's
like okay, yeah,
exactly
I'm,
it.
I'm getting
Yeah.
underpaid now. So if Pittsburgh Steelers called up the Houston Texans and were like, hey, you got to pay your quarterback. You don't. We'll trade you TJ Watt for CJ Stroud because we'll pay CJ Stroud rather than TJ Watt. do you think the Houston Texans are in a better situation to be successful with TJ Watt rather than CJ Stroud? And then does CJ Stroud make the Pittsburgh Steelers better with him minus TJ Watt?
Well,
I mean,
I think so. I think that
I guess that's like to me, because there wasn't like a clear cut person this year. I mean, Brock Purdy was about the only one who got paid as far as quarterbacks. I know, like
right.
Sam Darnold. I don't think you make that trade with Sam Darnold. To be honest with you, I think I don't know. Me personally, I might rather have TJ
Right.
Watt than Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
But maybe Geno Smith. Was Geno Smith a
Yeah.
trade candidate? He got traded.
Yeah.
mhm.
So, and he's kind of like a middle of a pack quarterback. I think to me,
I think so.
maybe a fringe top 15. I think maybe he's probably top 15 if I did a list. But um, do the Pittsburgh Steelers make that trade with Seattle? Like, hey, we'll trade you TJ Watt with Geno Smith. And do you think Geno Smith actually makes them a team that can make it to like a divisional or a conference championship in the playoffs rather than having TJ Watt?
Well, I think Gino gives them a much better chance than what they have right now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
And
that's a
with
win-win.
TJ.
Yeah.
But I think that I would hope that they'd get a little more, in that than just Gino. But if you're even doing it straight up, I would be okay with that,
Yeah.
especially considering how much, if you could look ahead and go, well, TJ is going to hold out and want a lot more money,
Right.
So I don't know.
I'd be okay with it as a fan of either team because the Seahawks, you've seen what they did when they could build a legendary
Mhm.
defense without necessarily a great offense.
Yeah.
They had Russell Wilson, they were doing good when they had the Legion of Boom. But I mean, I think the Seahawks could build a legendary defense and they can I'd like it either way. And then
Yeah, but the thing is, though, even during the Legion of Boom days, I mean, Russell Wilson was a top 5 quarterback.
yeah,
So I mean,
that's
even
true.
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying. So I like your example a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, they still needed a top 5 quarterback.
I guess-
Russell Wilson was playing
I guess
outstanding.
maybe I wouldn't like it for the Steelers because the Steelers have done with no quarterback play and have been a playoff team because of the defense.
Yeah.
Which I think is a prime example of having that good of a defensive player makes it where you don't need a good quarterback because the Steelers have done it every year since Big Ben.
Right.
Right. But then you watch. I mean, my thing is too. You watch all these teams you watch the good teams that are struggling without a good quarterback, like the Steelers. And they can't get playoff wins. Like we've talked about, they can't get that playoff win. When was the last time, like we've had it on here, they haven't had a playoff win in what, like 8 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's been a long time, and that's because they don't have good quarterback play. That's because they can't get it done in the playoffs with just a defense, just with what they're rolling with. And then you watch all these other teams that have decent teams, like the Colts. DeForest Buckner. I think he's one of the top defensive linemen in the league, but they have questions at quarterback, and they have for years, so they haven't been able to really get anywhere. They haven't been able to get really good traction and get going. They have one of the best running backs in the league. They have all these answers, but yet no quarterback. So if you're telling me that, like, okay, we're going to give up our defensive tackle or our defensive end for a quarterback that at least is going to be able to keep us stable for 3 or 4 years, I'm taking it. Because you see what happens, like the Tennessee Titans. They had a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, kept them stable for about 3 years. They made the number 1 overall pick, made the playoffs, made the AFC Championship. I don't even know if they made it that far, but I think it was, yeah.
They lost to the Chiefs, I think, that year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just adds so much when you just get even a quarterback that can just do something, even a little bit,
Yeah,
So
I guess I understand that.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback position is still the most important, and I would if I was like your hypothetical, if I'm the Texans and the Steelers, if I'm the Steelers, I'd make that trade.
Right.
Yeah, I
You
guess the way the NFL is built now, I could see that if I could go through and I could build my own team in BGM, I think I could do it without a quarterback. I think you get an O-line that is known for run blocking. You get a running back. You build a stacked defense. You have a quarterback you only have to pay $25-30 million a year because he's just okay.
Right.
And I think you can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think it's more rare that you have a team that wins Super Bowls on defense with a bad quarterback, rather than like a good quarterback that has or a good offense that a good quarterback that has a bad defense. But like, I think Brad Johnson with the Buccaneers, they made it to a Super Bowl.
The Baltimore Ravens when they were on it with
a Dilfer.
Trent
Dilfer.
Dilfer.
So,
So I mean, like as far as like last decade or so.
Mhm.
I don't even know who the best example would be that didn't have a really good quarterback that won a Super Bowl.
No.
Because even like the Nick Foles Philadelphia Eagles that won it, he was kind of on a heater
Yeah.
when Carson Wentz
Okay.
got hurt.
I'm a big fan of this guy. But are we going to say that Joe Flacco and the Ravens won the Super Bowl? Are we going to say he was a great quarterback? Because even if you look at the stats, he was a mediocre quarterback then.
I think in
But they had
playoff
the- but
stats,
they
I
had
think
the
he went
best.
on a heater.
Right. But he
They
was
had the best defense in the league.
okay, fine. But he was between 13 to 17 quarterback in the league. He wasn't like the 31st. They weren't like, oh my God, who are we going to get at quarterback? We need a quarterback. And then he just, a fluke. He actually was there. And yeah, I agree with you. I think he was mid-tier, but just what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like a mid-tier quarterback got him there and won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
I think he kind of reminds me of like Eli Manning. Like Eli Manning was never a top 10 quarterback. I know he passed for 55,000 yards, which is kind of crazy to me. I didn't
Right.
realize that, but I never thought of Eli Manning as a top 5 quarterback. But those two teams that he was on, those defensive, kind of won the Super Bowl by shutting down the Patriots. So same thing. He's probably middle of the pack
Yep.
type of quarterback. It was just interesting because, in my opinion, I think the Browns made a mistake by not trading Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
They kind of reflect, and I know they're in a contract situation or a health situation with Deshaun Watson. They can't get out of because it's all guaranteed money.
Right.
But they made a conscious choice of not getting future draft picks or like even 2025 draft picks by trading Myles Garrett. They probably could have traded him for a first this year, a first, second, and been pretty stable. And then even in this draft, they probably could have traded back down and got another first round like they did this year. So
Right.
I think they made a mistake. And I don't know if like Cam Ward would have been the answer if they could have had enough draft capital to move up to number one, but they had enough draft capital to potentially like go get somebody and trade for somebody because they have all these first round picks.
They could have had Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Who was that? I mean, they still had a chance
Right.
at that other kid, but I mean, yeah, they had chances.
Mhm.
I agree.
Or even like people that
agree.
are on teams right now, like who's
Gino. They could have made it for Gino.
Yeah. Or you think of like Kyler Murray's probably getting towards the tail end, or Trevor Lawrence. I don't
But
know if the Jaguars regret paying Trevor Lawrence that amount of money. I think probably the Cleveland Browns would happily have Trevor Lawrence on their team with their
I
quarterback
think
situation. They
I
have
think
right
what
now.
they
Right.
should do. I mean, they've been chasing a quarterback for so long now. I think what the Browns should do probably is find a replacement for Nick Chubb,
Mhm.
and then they have the legendary defense, and they have a good run game again. And I think they could be a playoff team without a quarterback.
Yeah, I think
Because we've seen
they
it from them
definitely
before, too.
drafted a running back. What that Trayvon Henderson? Is that who they got?
Is that who they
From
Yeah,
got?
Ohio
one of the
State,
Ohio. Yeah, so I mean,
So
Mhm.
if he comes in and he's the next Nick Chubb for him, and he's a really good running back, and they can figure out their O line,
Mhm.
I think they could do this year with their quarterback room if everything's clicking on all cylinders. Whereas if they miss Myles Garrett, I don't think they're a playoff team at all.
yeah, that was just. I think if it wasn't that large of a sum of money
Yeah.
of cash, man, that was crazy.
But that's why
So
I also think you just need to let your quarterbacks you have in your room play for now.
Yeah.
And you need to just focus on the running game and the defense until you get Deshaun all paid off.
Mhm.
Just be like, who cares who's in our quarterback room? Because now we've restructured to where we're paying Deshaun Watson $80 million this year.
Right.
yeah,
Like, just to
yeah,
get
they
this
need
shit
to
going.
get over that.
They
they
do.
just need to do something.
But like Gage and I were talking, they're paying him right now at least through 2023. As far as it's gonna not paying him, but it's going towards their cap because
like
they restructured it.
33.
Yeah,
32.
32.
32.
Yeah, I thought so.
And then they're gonna have to restructure again this next offseason because he's geared like 75 million or something like that next year.
and I
towards the
think they
cap.
should just eat that shit.
Yeah,
Just eat it.
they might have to.
Yeah, between what they're paying him and
You're
Myles Garrett, it's crazy.
It is.
So,
You're
I
not
mean,
winning a Super Bowl anyways. Just eat it, man.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, just pay for it.
Yeah.
And take a couple of bad years that
Mhm.
are probably just going to be, you're going to have to get rid of guys, total rebuild. And that's what they're afraid
And you
of.
should probably just sell the team.
Yeah, they're just afraid of that total rebuild. But yeah, no, I like that question. I think that's a kind of a good question because we do, like, at least here, as we've talked about, we still feel, I think even overall you do, that the quarterback position is still really
Mhm.
important, probably the most. But it's like we try to undervalue it a little bit within like MVP talks, and it's always offensive player of the year. I mean, you're missing out what these other players do
Right.
because it's always quarterbacks, always this, but it is still really an important position.
I think
so.
if you get top 10 quarterback, he'll be the most important person on your team. I think
Yeah.
overall, I don't really think a position itself is the most important if you have a good coach. I think your coach is probably the most important person on the team. And then if you have a good coach, you can make just a mediocre quarterback work like Kyle Shanahan did with Jimmy Garoppolo.
So I got another one. We'll try to make it quick because I don't want
Okay.
this dragging on too long. Now that I didn't even think about it until Gage brought it up. But if there was a draft and it was between like you could have like GMs, head coaches, and players, who do you think would go number one overall?
For GMs, coaches, and
Everybody,
players.
everybody in the league right now. Do you
Ooh,
think it's a
total
quarterback
reset.
or do you think it's a head coach? Because you just brought that up, and
I think
I didn't think about that until you brought that up.
overall, I think it's the GM, and I think John Lynch is in great fighting for it.
So let's go back to this draft. Tennessee Titans, right? Had the
Right.
number one overall pick, and they're like, "Okay, you have your pick from all the GMs, all the head coaches, and all the players in the league. Who do you think they're taking?" Because I have somebody in my mind, and I
I
think
would-
it's pretty obvious.
I
would
think they
hope that-
probably take Mahomes.
That's who I was thinking.
But
Mahomes.
if they were,
I'm on. Yeah, from this one, if I don't know, it would be
think
hard
it's
enough
just
to
because
take
of
Andy
that, though.
Reid too.
that's
though.
what I was gonna say. I think the smart take. Everybody pushes for the quarterback so hard, and that's how NFL teams look at it too. I think the smart take is either a hell of a GM or Andy Reid.
Mhm.
I think you're going wrong if you go with any player, go with any coordinator.
Yeah.
I think you either get a GM you really like or you get Andy Reid.
Yeah, you get Tennessee Titans with Andy Reid over there. All of a sudden, Will Levis is going to start
You think
playing
so?
really damn good. No,
Yes.
he'll be playing better because I mean, look what they did with Alex Smith.
Yeah, you had
know.
broken tibula. Alex Smith go over there and win 11 straight
Oh,
games.
that was before, though. He went there before he broke the tip.
I
Did
thought
he?
that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, he went to the Chiefs and then
Oh,
went
yeah,
to the
then
Commanders.
Commanders.
Commanders, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he went 11-0, and then they finally
Mhm.
subbed in Mahomes, so the Mahomes took him to the
Mhm.
championship.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's an interesting question. Like, who would like give
Yeah.
you more success? I probably Andy Reid or a coach in the long run, obviously. But if you like the Tennessee Titans, are like, hey, we're looking to win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. To me, I think it's obvious. I think you'd probably take Patrick Mahomes.
I think
Mm.
that's the craziest take ever.
Yeah.
I think
You think
it's
so?
obvious you take Andy Reid.
So here's my question.
You take Andy Reid away from the Chiefs, and they're a 9-win team at best.
Here's my dilemma with that. I think Andy Reid did the Chiefs such a justice in the Super Bowl because it was nothing but complaining they only ran the ball like 3 times in the
Mhm.
first half.
Yep.
And when Patrick Mahomes was just getting murdered back there with that offensive line,
Yeah,
they
that
had,
was
he
bad
wasn't
play
doing
calling.
anything. So
But look back on everything. That's the only bitch anybody has ever had about Andy Reid.
do you hold Andy Reid in the same category as you do Bill Belichick? Because you said Tom Brady made Bill Belichick.
Oh,
and
we've had this talk a million times.
Andy Reid never won anything
Since we
without
started this
Patrick
podcast,
Mahomes.
even with Hunter on, we've had this talk a million times. He won a Super Bowl as coordinator, or was in one at least.
Bill Belichick?
No,
So
Andy
did
Reid.
Bill Belichick did too.
Did he
With
as
the
the
Giants, he was the
Oh yeah, that's
Giants
true.
defensive coordinator.
But I think Andy Reid is the greatest to ever do it. I think he's on a different level than Belichick.
really,
And if you look at it between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and I looked it up because I was having this argument, Andy Reid was like 500 before Mahomes came along for head coaching record. Bill Belichick was like 38% win percentage before Tom Brady came along. So it's like how I think those stats, if you look at it before their
Well, what
insane
was
quarterback
it?
came along,
I think it was because Bill Belichick was the coach of the Browns, and there's just no fixing that.
I think
and
Andy
then-
Reid could go in and fix the Browns.
No, I kind of would like to see Belichick go back there and see what he could do with this now too. Andy Reid, you put a good
Yeah.
coach in that situation, what would they be able to do
Right.
with it? But I think I like that too, though. I like that where you said that. But Bill Belichick, I mean, you can't. It's hard to say who makes what, but he had such a hell of a run with the Patriots that it was just insane to be like that. Andy Reid's on a whole nother level. I could
No,
see the
but
argument
you
to
proved it,
maybe
and
pick one or the other.
Tom
but
Brady proved it to us when we all thought that Bill Belichick was that good,
Mhm.
and maybe it's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady left, went to the Bucks. They win a Super Bowl. The Patriots win 6 games. Like,
Right, but then you got where Andy Reid leaves the Eagles, right? And since then they've won Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? But he
Like,
couldn't win one there.
I think after Brady left, Mac Jones, they drafted Mac Jones,
Yeah.
right? And they went to the playoffs with Mac Jones because they lost in the divisional round, I think, or the wild card round. I'm sorry, with Mac Jones his rookie year.
Did they make it there with Mac Jones?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought they were in the 6 to 9 win category with
No, I
Max
think the
rookie
year
year.
after, but I'm pretty sure his rookie year, like they weren't great. I think they made a wild card. They
Oh,
ended up losing, I believe, to the
well,
Bills.
I mean, either way, they went from Super Bowl winners to
Yeah.
mediocre, whereas Tom Brady leaves and wins the Super Bowl. So
Here, do
I
you
think
think
I think
if
if Patrick Mahomes went to even a team that's only quarterback needy like the Buccaneers
Mhm.
were, I think they're competitive, and I think they're competing with the Lions and the Vikings, and the Niners and whoever you want to say is the powerhouses of the NFC. If he went to an NFC team that was QB needy, and other than that, just fine. I think they're probably a 13-win team, but I don't think they're winning at all.
Mm,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think that you're
Or
not giving enough credit to the actual players, but
or if you leave Mahomes
But
in
I
his
hear what
current
you're saying a little
situation and
bit.
you pull Andy Reid out, and it's the exact same situation he's made the Super Bowl without Andy Reid, I don't think they're making the Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen probably knocks him out or Joe Burrow knocks him out.
Yeah.
I do think Andy Reid is the reason they've gotten where they are. I do think Mahomes is the top 5 quarterback, but I don't think.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
definitely
last year he wasn't even top 5. He
it's a
barely
case
made the
of
top
who
10
made
last
who,
year.
in my opinion, and it's kind of I used to get into this argument with Cody, my late friend Cody, all the time about the Niners and Bill Walsh with Joe Montana. It's like it's like he's like, yeah, it was that whole West Coast system because he was a firm believer that it was all coaching and all system. That's
Mhm.
what he felt. That's what he goes. That's what wins in the NFL. That's what wins in football now. It's all coaching and all system. But we used to get into it, and I used to be like, he goes, yeah, well, if it wasn't for Bill Walsh and that West Coast system, Niners would never had their Super Bowls, and you wouldn't even know who Joe Montana really was and all that. I was like, no, bullshit. Joe
No, that's
Montana
100% a
was
fact.
great. Joe Montana was great. Jerry Rice was great. Bill Walsh, yes, he did revolutionize that West Coast system, and it definitely did things. But you're still going to know who Joe Montana was. You're still going to know who Jerry Rice was. And it's just kind
Yeah,
of one of
but
those
you
things
know
where,
who Joe Montana is, just like the way you know who John
no,
Elway is, who
I don't
never won a
agree.
Super Bowl,
Somebody still
or
has to do it. You still got to
Yeah.
sling it.
who these legendary
I
quarterbacks are,
don't
who have never won a Super
I
Bowl.
don't agree with that. I
That's
think just
exactly what it is.
sometimes you get a pairing and things click, and that is what it is. I think
No,
I can't think
you
that
have
you can
plenty
be
of
like,
legendary quarterbacks who, if you put them in Bill Walsh's system or you put them in Andy Reid's system, they're 3-4 time Super Bowl champs. But because they were in a shitty system their whole career, they didn't win a
that's
single
what I
Super
said.
Bowl.
Sometimes things click though, and sometimes you get a great quarterback with a great system and a great coach, and you get things like 3 Super Bowls in
Yeah, or you
6
get a great
years.
quarterback. I still think Joe Montana would have been great, but if he didn't line up and click perfectly with Bill Walsh, I don't think he's a Super Bowl champ.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that's kind of what if, But I felt like Andy Reid had a great quarterback in Donovan McNabb, but they still couldn't win a Super Bowl. And it was one of those deals every year. It was like, man, they got a great offense, great offense. They go to the playoffs and they can't get it done. Go to the Super Bowl, can't get it done. I think that what they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So
Mhm.
he's already like head to head, he's already lost to Bill Belichick so many times. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I do. I mean, you look at the stats before they had their legendary quarterbacks, because they had Tom Brady when Belichick beat
Mhm.
Donovan McNabb,
Oh
which
yeah,
I don't think
but
anyone wants to compare those two ever.
right, but that's the thing though is I mean everybody wants to try to do that. If you take this, if you do this, it's just I think it's one of those deals where man, it's just you can't really just take everything out of that and go it wouldn't have worked with this person. It might have worked with that person. I think they
But
coaches elevate players.
they did it, and you saw it.
Well, no, I agree with the Bill Belichick losing Tom Brady, but that's you lost probably the greatest quarterback of all time, and you went on a little slump. And Bill Belichick by that
You
time,
ended up out of the league.
well, yeah, he was what already like 70 years old though, so it was like time for a change.
But
Yeah.
isn't
You
he
know,
coaching college?
yeah, which is
And he
that's.
signed to North Carolina.
I think he's
Mhm.
going through a whole like what is that a late life crisis?
Yeah. Not even
Bullshit
midlife.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
now that he's no longer being carried by
Yeah.
a quarterback, he had the late life crisis. Yeah.
I think it's just interesting because I think if you obviously, just in my opinion, if you had like an NFL head coach draft, Andy Reid's going number one. If you had a player draft, my opinion, Patrick Mahomes is going number
it's
one.
hard not to take
So,
him.
like you said, it's just such a great pairing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I still think Tennessee Titans probably take Patrick Mahomes over Andy Reid. And
So
that's just my opinion. We just talked about how important a quarterback is to
Yeah.
a team's success. Obviously, like if Tennessee Titans get like I don't know, my top 3 coaches probably in the NFL are probably Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. just with what they kind of can do with innovation on offense and
what they can do with like very little.
yeah,
Sometimes.
exactly. And so, it whether they but if you give them the choice, do I think Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson probably go before any of those three head coaches? Probably, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think
maybe.
your instant success is going to be based more off who your quarterback is rather than your head coach.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too in a way, because it does seem like, a head coach comes in, the first thing he wants is a franchise quarterback, so they
Mhm.
draft a quarterback.
Yeah, but I think if you're going with a quarterback or a player in your first pick, as much as I hate Joe Burrow, I think it's Joe Burrow.
You think so?
I mean,
Yeah,
if you're
he's up there
if
with
you're
that. I
if
could
you're
see
gonna
taking
pick a
that.
player, if you're gonna pick one player with the first pick
Mhm.
out of even head coaches, GMs, everything, if you're gonna take a player, I think it's Joe Burrow.
No, that's
Because
a good take.
I do believe that he is gonna do. I mean, he's gonna do more with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You throw in, he's the type of player that you can throw in any coach, and his strengths are everything. So it doesn't matter what kind of system they want to run. It doesn't matter how bad the coach is.
Yeah.
He's still going to put up his numbers, and he's still going to do what he does.
Well, you know what? I don't think you can go wrong with what the Browns are doing, so I'm probably taking Myles Garrett, number one. And
they did actually.
Yeah. So I'm going to take him every time, and I'm going to pay him a lot of money because, you can't go wrong with what the Browns have been doing for their entire, especially the last 30 years. So,
Hey, man, but everybody thought they were going to be great right now because they had that one really good year with Joe Flacco.
All right. Well,
they're about to run that back, too.
I think this has been fun. I like the arguments. I like talking about it.
Like
so,
it
yeah, if you guys want to send us in some questions, man, we'd love to argue over this stuff again and get into some of these debates. You can see how Gage gets pretty animated.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
The guy's passionate about it. I like it.
Yeah, get them all pissed off. And we want to get Jared going, too. So send in something, that's going to get Jared fired up. We want to see Coach Carter get a little animated as well.
We're okay with college, too. You can come talk shit about Notre Dame. You could do that,
You
too.
really want to see me give talk crap about a team that just made the national championship.
Exactly. Give them some help. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for listening. Hit us up with your questions. On Facebook, we have Instagram. Sorry, I'm not up on the Instagram part of it.
Yeah.
But I do the Facebook part. He does our Instagram stuff. And then if you just didn't want to leave a question at Podbean, that'd be awesome. We'd love to hear it. And we'll get into it. We'll make a special episode just to get into it. So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening.